If you want to effectively manage nerves or anxiety that come up before a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class or competition, the process is universal across all fears, and that's the process of exposure. So that way you get better understanding and the anxiety will naturally fade away. Anxiety of things that have yet to happen comes from the unknown. If you've never been to a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class whatsoever, you don't know what it's going to look like, you don't know what you're going to do, you may be nervous about upcoming social requirements, whether or not it's going to be awkward, if they're going to recognize you when you come in and greet you, or if they're going to look at you like, oh, you don't belong here, you're brand new. So obviously, a better gym culture can make you feel more welcoming, but when you actually go there and you introduce yourself to people and you've been there more than once, you will be less nervous. So what I recommend doing if you're nervous is asking if you can show up and just watch a class. It's a really good way to see if this is something you would be willing to try. You can sign your waiver. This is how I actually got introduced into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I showed up, I signed a waiver, and I just sat there and I watched a class. Then I came back the next day and I participated in the class. And it was a lot less intimidating because I'd already seen some people. They knew who I was. I was like, hey, I was here yesterday. I watched class. I'd like to try out for an intro class. And they happily welcomed me on the mat. And I'd been there for the first time, but I didn't have to do anything, so there was no pressure. So that's how to overcome nervousness if you've never been there before. Now, if you've been there before and you're still getting nervous, well, you have to understand why you're getting nervous. Are you getting nervous because you're getting beat up? When I say beat up, I don't generally mean like black eyes. You're almost always still going to be safe in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but you can be the nail, so to speak, as opposed to the hammer. You can be in the receiving end of the techniques, playing a lot of defense, especially if you're smaller or newer, and maybe the gym's a little bit more aggressive or competitive. And if you're nervous about it's being in an uncomfortable position where you have to tap a bunch and people are choking you, totally understand that. But the more you expose yourself in those situations, the less uncomfortable they're going to feel. I know when I first started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it was extremely uncomfortable when someone was putting something across my neck, but now it's extremely normal. It's to me as if someone was just shaking my hand, whether or not if they're going to put something across my neck and it's not going to choke me. To me, in the middle of a match, it's almost irrelevant. It's not because they're doing anything different, but because I'm different. Because my body has calloused over time, it's adjusted. You're going to be a little bit more soft, so to speak, when you first start Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. You kind of toughen out over time, you get used to it. But I think more so than anything, mentally, you're just recognizing when you're in danger and when you're not in danger, and you're expanding that area of competence. When you're nervous, you just have to expose yourself to that situation more. And do it gradually, do it in steps. If you're nervous about sparring, for example, just say, hey, I'd like to positionally spar. Oftentimes, a lot of gyms will start people just positionally sparring. So you start in somewhere where you're comfortable. Maybe you learned a sweep from closed guard in class that day. Well, just start in closed guard and just go for that sweep, or if you get out of position, just reset. And then there's no pressure of ending up in somewhere where you don't know and you're uncomfortable. You can just stay focused on what you know and slowly expand from there. And then eventually you'll feel comfortable. If you've been in all the positions individually, well, just try putting it all together and do a regular roll. And when it comes time to competition, first of all, you don't have to compete. A lot of people like to compete. A lot of people are encouraged to compete because there's benefits you get for improving your jiu-jitsu game, for preparing. It's kind of an emotional event, whether or not you're excited you win or sad you lose. You learn from it either way. But there's a little bit more on the line. You paid some money, you could get a medal, you signed a waiver, you don't know this person, you're going to be anxious, you're going to be nervous. My very first competition match, I wasted all my energy. I was so tired afterwards. I gripped up and just aggressive. Never been that tired in my life. But as I kept doing it more and more and more, even into the individual matches, you get used to it and it's less scary and intimidating. And over time, you just learn to expand your comfort zone. Now, a competition still makes me nervous, but it's nowhere near how it was when I was a white belt and I've never done it before. You get the adrenaline dump, you don't even remember what happened. It's not like that anymore. Now I'm a lot more focused. I'm aware. I can, calm down, understand what my coach is saying. And you're still always going to be nervous a little bit, but the more you do it, the more comfortable you become in this situation, the more you expose yourself to it, the less intimidating and the less nervous you're going to be.